Alien girl let the human carry her through the glow field, and her quiet smile stayed with him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The wind swept across the glow field in slow, shimmering waves, each breath of air stirring the tiny particles that floated above the ground like drifting embers. Alex Mercer stood at the edge of it all, his boots planted on the last patch of safe soil, his breath hanging in the cold night air. He'd heard of this place before, the way the locals spoke of it in hushed tones, a field that glowed gently under the moonlight, yet carried a charge strong enough to numb a limb if you stepped wrong. Even from where he stood, he could feel a faint hum through the soles of his boots, like the land itself was breathing. His flashlight flickered against the haze of floating lights, each speck no bigger than a grain of sand, yet bright enough to paint soft bands of purple across his gloves. He adjusted the small repair pack slung over his shoulder. All he had meant to do was fix the transmission relay before the night storm rolled in. Simple, quick, in and out. But then he'd heard something, soft, strained, like someone trying not to cry out. A sound that didn't belong in the quiet. He followed it instinctively, moving along the safe ridgeline until he spotted a faint silhouette slumped near the center of the glowing expanse. At first he thought it was just debris from an old survey craft, but as he angled his light, the shape shifted. A hand lifted. A face turned toward him. She was small, delicate, with skin that held its own soft light, almost matching the colors rising from the ground. Her eyes, wide, alert, startled, caught the beam for a second before she raised an arm to block it. Alex lowered the light immediately. "Hey," he called gently, keeping his voice steady the way one does when speaking to someone who might be scared. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head once, then winced. It was a tiny motion, but it told him enough. "I cannot move," she whispered. Her accent was melodic, not quite like any dialect he'd heard on Valara 9 before. "The field reacts to my body. I stepped wrong. My legs are asleep." Alex glanced at the shimmering ground, then back at her. The glow field pulsed faintly around her form, like it was holding her in place. He knew what the glow could do to human nerves if touched directly. He had no idea how it affected her species. "Okay," he murmured, "just stay with me." Her eyes tightened in confusion. Why would a human help someone he does not know? "Because you need it," he said simply. Her expression softened, just a little. The lights of the field brushed her cheeks, making them seem almost warm. Alex stepped forward, testing the ground with one boot until he found the rhythm of the pulsing energy, timing each step with the low hum beneath the soil. It felt like walking on a sleeping beast. Slowly, carefully, he reached her. When he knelt beside her, she looked up with a mixture of worry and something quieter. Hope, maybe. "This might feel strange," he warned softly, "but I've got you." He slid one arm beneath her shoulders, the other under her knees, lifting her as gently as he could. She tensed for a moment, then relaxed against him, surprised by the ease with which he carried her. Even through his gloves, he felt the faint warmth she gave off, a warmth that seemed to pulse in time with the glow around them. And as he turned back toward the safe ridge, her head rested lightly against his shoulder. That was when it happened. Her quiet smile, small enough to miss in the drifting light, yet bright enough to settle deep inside him, a warmth he didn't expect to feel out here in the cold. It stayed with him long after he took the first step out of the glow field. Alex felt the glow field quiet beneath his boots as he stepped onto solid ground, the humming fading from a steady vibration to a distant tremor. The night air beyond the shimmering boundary felt colder, sharper, as if the warmth of the floating lights had been holding everything together. Leary shifted slightly in his arms, her breath steady now, her skin dimming from its earlier radiance. Whatever reaction she had to the field was easing. He could feel that. Her eyes opened halfway, studying him with a calmness that had not been there moments earlier. "You move confidently across dangerous places," she murmured. Alex gave a soft huff of a laugh. "I would not go that far. I just did not want to drop you." The corner of her mouth twitched, almost a second smile. She glanced toward the horizon, where the faint outline of the relay tower cast its long shadow across the uneven terrain. "Your repair pack," she said quietly. "You must have been working before you heard me." "Yeah," he replied, shifting her weight to one arm, so he could adjust the strap on his shoulder. "The storm tonight is going to knock out half the grid if the relay is not patched. But you kind of took priority." She blinked slowly, as if trying to absorb the idea. "In my world, priority is earned through obligation or rank, not through need." "Maybe your world is missing something," he murmured. She looked as though she wanted to respond, but her head eased back onto his shoulder. "Exhaustion, not fear." He adjusted his grip again. She was lighter than he expected, almost weightless at moments, as if her body still held traces of the glow field's strange energy. The nearest shelter was a rocky overhang he had spotted on the way in, a natural shield from the unpredictable gusts that sometimes swept across the valley. The walk was careful, slow, the crunch of gravel under his boots keeping rhythm with her soft breaths. He kept glancing down, making sure she was still comfortable. Her gaze stayed on him for long stretches, steady and unguarded. That alone felt unusual. When they reached the overhang, Alex knelt and eased her down onto a smooth patch of stone. She steadied herself with her palms, flexing her legs slightly. The movement was weak but present. "The numbness will fade soon," she said. "My body adapts quickly." "Good," he replied, settling beside her so she would not feel stranded. The wind whistled past the rock face, carrying the faint metallic scent that always came before a Valoran night storm. He brushed a bit of glowing dust off his sleeve, watching it drift away like a drifting firefly. Leary followed his motion. "You could have left when you saw me," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Many would have. My appearance alone makes some humans uneasy." He shook his head. "You were hurt. That is all that mattered." She studied him again, longer this time, as if trying to understand a puzzle with too many missing pieces. "Your kind surprises me," she whispered, "in ways I cannot measure." Alex leaned back against the rock, letting the quiet settle around them. The field glowed behind them in long, rippling waves, its light framing the edges of her silhouette. She sat with her hands folded loosely in her lap, her posture relaxed now that the danger had passed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The calm felt earned. Then Leary tilted her head slightly, eyes focused on him with a softness that reached deeper than her earlier smile. "Thank you," she said, barely above a breath. The words lingered in the cold air, warmer than anything the glow field had offered. Alex felt something in his chest shift, gentle and unexpected, as if her gratitude settled beside the quiet smile she had given him earlier, a second moment he knew he would remember far longer than he should. The storm clouds gathered slowly over the valley, their edges glowing faintly as distant lightning danced inside them like trapped stars. Alex kept one eye on the sky and the other on Leary, who was testing her legs with cautious shifts, her palms pressed lightly against the stone. Her movements were tentative but improving, the tingling numbness fading each time she flexed her toes. She drew a slow breath, the kind that steadies both body and mind. "It is returning," she said softly. "The strength. My muscles remember what the glow field tried to take." Alex nodded, relieved but still alert. "Good. But we should not stay out here when that storm hits. The winds on this ridge get rough." Leary glanced up, studying the clouds as if she could read them better than any scanner. "Your weather is unpredictable. Always shifting. My home skies follow a pattern. You can trust them." "I trust this one," Alex replied, gesturing to the horizon. "And it says we have maybe 30 minutes. She tilted her head, observing him the way a scientist might observe a rare creature. "You speak with certainty, but you are not certain. You are guessing." He laughed under his breath. "Maybe, but it keeps me alive." Her gaze settled on him again, thoughtful in a way that made the air feel warmer despite the cold breeze creeping in. She seemed to be weighing questions she was not sure she should ask. Instead, she shifted the subject. "You said you were repairing the relay tower. Does it matter if it stays broken for one night?" Alex tapped the small pack beside him. "It powers the beacon that keeps cargo shuttles from drifting too low over this valley. Without it, someone else could end up stuck out here like you." Leary considered that for a long moment. "Then you should finish your work." He blinked. "You think you will be fine here by yourself?" "I did not say that," she replied, calm and deliberate. I mean that you will finish your work because it is in your nature to do so. Whether I stay here or walk beside you, the outcome is the same. Her words surprised him with their quiet certainty. He stood, offering a hand without thinking. She looked at it, then at him, then placed her fingers lightly in his. Her skin felt cool now, the earlier heat replaced by a steady calm. As she rose, her legs trembled once, then held. He steadied her instinctively. She did not pull away. The two of them began moving toward the relay tower, the path winding along the ridge with patches of gravel crunching under their steps. The glow field behind them pulsed gently, its light brushing their backs like a reminder of the danger they had left. Leary walked slowly but with growing confidence. Every now and then she would glance at Alex, almost checking if he was still there. Once, when the wind kicked up a spray of sand, she leaned closer to him without realizing it. Alex noticed but said nothing. The moment felt natural, quiet, unforced. When the tower came into view, its metal frame silhouetted against the shifting clouds, Leary paused. "Your world is harsh," she said, voice soft as drifting dust. "But your people carry others through it, even strangers." He looked at her, meeting the steady glow of her eyes. "Sometimes that is all we can do." She held his gaze a little longer, long enough for the wind to settle and the valley to fall into a temporary, peaceful stillness. Then she took a careful breath and stepped forward again, closer to him this time, as if the distance between them no longer made sense. The relay tower stood silent in the dim light, its metal frame rising like a lone spine against the deepening gray sky. Alex approached it with a wary glance upward, checking the tangled cables and the flickering beacon lamp at the top. The storm clouds pressed closer now, low enough that he could hear a faint rumble traveling through the cold air. Leary stopped beside him, her breathing steady but her posture still slightly guarded, as if every new shape on this world demanded careful study. Her eyes traced the tower's design with quiet curiosity. "Your structures look fragile," she said softly. "Thin bones holding too much weight." Alex removed his gloves and crouched by the maintenance panel. "They hold. Most of the time." "Most of the time is not confidence," she replied, shifting closer to him, the faint glow of her skin reflecting off the metal. He gave a faint smile. "Welcome to human engineering." Leary watched his hands as he opened the panel. The small toolkit he carried clicked softly as he unfolded it, the pieces catching the last bits of fading daylight. Inside, the wiring was exactly as he feared, frayed, slightly scorched, and still humming with enough residual charge to make the hairs on his arms rise. He steadied himself, leaning in. "This part might take a few minutes. May I help?" Leary asked. He paused, surprised by the sincerity in her voice. "If you feel steady enough." "I do," she said, though she moved slowly as she lowered herself to sit beside him. The stone beneath them radiated a faint chill, but her presence eased the cold, a subtle warmth that made the space feel smaller and somehow safer. Alex pointed to a cable. "Hold this gently. If it shifts, the whole relay could lose balance." Leary lifted it with delicate fingers, more precise than he expected. Even exhausted, she moved with an instinctive grace, her touch careful but sure. "Your technology is simple," she murmured, "but it has a certain charm." "Charm is one word for it," Alex replied, tightening a connector. "Unstable is another." A soft breeze brushed across their backs, carrying the first whisper of the approaching storm. The distant rumble grew slightly louder, wrapping the two of them in a thin blanket of tension. But inside the small pocket of space beneath the tower, it felt strangely quiet. They worked in near silence, their movements forming a steady rhythm. Alex adjusting wires, Leary holding the structure with gentle focus, the wind humming around them. At one point, her hand brushed his as she shifted her grip. It was not intentional, just a small touch, but she pulled back quickly, almost startled. Alex glanced at her, but she looked down at her hands, her expression unreadable. When he sealed the panel and switched the relay back on, the beacon above flickered once, then glowed bright and steady. The light stretched across the darkening valley like a promise. Leary tilted her head back, watching it. "It works," she whispered. "Because you helped?" Alex said. She turned toward him, her eyes reflecting the beacon's glow, soft and warm. "I only held a cable. Sometimes that is enough." She looked at him for a long moment, the wind pulling gently at her hair, the storm waiting in the distance but not yet touching them. "It feels unusual," she said quietly, "to be useful to someone who expects nothing in return." Alex met her gaze, feeling the weight of her words settle between them. "You were never a burden, Leary." Her eyes softened again, the same way they had when she smiled in the glow field. And in that quiet space beneath the relay tower, with the storm closing in around them, something warm and unspoken passed between them, as gentle as the glow she carried and just as impossible to ignore. The first drops of rain touched the metal frame of the relay tower with a soft ticking sound, each one sliding down in thin streaks that caught the beacon's glow. Alex looked toward the valley floor, measuring the wind by instinct, the way he had done through a dozen storms on this world. The worst of it was still minutes away, but the air already carried that charged heaviness that made the skin prickle. Leary stepped closer to him, her eyes lifted toward the clouds as if she could read the storm's intentions. The faint shimmer under her skin brightened with each low rumble overhead, not in fear, but in some quiet awareness her kind possessed. "The atmosphere is shifting quickly," she said. "The pressure dropped too fast. Your storm will not be gentle." "They rarely are," Alex replied, adjusting the strap of his toolkit. "We need shelter before the wind hits." She looked back toward the path they had taken earlier, the one leading to the rocky overhang, but the darkness had swallowed its outline. The glow field behind them pulsed faintly, its glow muted now under the thickening clouds. "Will we make it in time?" she asked. Alex nodded once. "If we keep moving." They started down the ridge, their steps steady, though the wind tugged at their clothes with growing insistence. Each gust carried tiny flecks of dust that sparkled briefly before fading into the air. Leary walked close beside him, her movements still careful, but no longer unsteady. "Your storms sound alive," she said quietly, as another rumble rolled across the valley. "Like something breathing." "Out here, you learn to listen," Alex replied. "Nature talks. You just have to pay attention." "Do you always listen?" she asked. He hesitated, then answered honestly. "Not always. But I try." Leary held on to those words as if turning them over in her mind. When the wind surged again, she leaned slightly into his side, not seeking protection exactly, but finding steadiness. The contact was brief yet grounding, a reminder that despite everything unfamiliar around her, she was not alone. A flash of distant lightning illuminated the valley for a heartbeat, outlining the jagged rock formations and the whispering waves of light from the glow field. In that brief illumination, Leary paused. "Your world holds beauty in strange places," she said softly. Alex glanced at her. "So does yours, I imagine." She lifted her hand slightly, watching the faint glow along her fingertips. "Our beauty is controlled," she said. "Cultivated, managed, monitored. Nothing is allowed to exist without purpose. But this," she gestured toward the storm, the field, the wild terrain stretching into shadow. "This feels free." Her admission lingered in the air. Alex felt something shift in her tone, something more honest than anything she had shared before. The ridge dipped ahead, leading them toward a cluster of boulders that offered partial shelter. He guided her toward it, the wind howling louder now. "We will wait here," Alex said. "The worst part will pass in a few minutes." Leary settled beside him in the narrow space, her shoulder brushing his. The storm roared overhead, but inside their small refuge, the sound softened to a steady rhythm, like waves against a distant shore. For a moment, neither spoke. Their breathing fell into the same quiet tempo. Then Leary turned her head toward him, her voice barely a whisper beneath the wind. "Back in the glow field, when you carried me, I felt something I did not have a name for." Alex met her eyes, the reflection of the beacon still flickering inside them. "What did it feel like?" She hesitated, her words careful and fragile. "Safe," she said, "and I do not often feel that." The wind shifted again, but inside the small shelter, warmth settled gently between them, quiet and undeniable. The storm eased little by little, the wind softening from a wild rush to a restless whisper that fluttered through the narrow gap in the rocks. The air smelled of damp stone and charged dust, the kind that clung to clothing and refused to let go. Alex watched the shifting clouds above their shelter, judging the timing the way anyone who lived on Velara eventually learned to do. The danger was fading, but the night was not finished with them yet. Leary sat close beside him, her knees drawn slightly toward her posture both reserved and quietly thoughtful. The faint glow beneath her skin dimmed and brightened with her breathing, a natural rhythm that seemed almost calming. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. It was not silence born from tension, but the kind that settles naturally when two people know words might disturb something fragile. Leary finally broke it. "There is something strange about you, Alex Mercer." He raised an eyebrow, though she was not looking directly at him, her gaze fixed on the distant valley where faint blue glimmers marked scattered pools of bioluminescent growth. "Just one thing?" he asked lightly. A small, barely there smile touched her lips before it faded. "More than one. You treat danger like weather. You treat strangers like companions. And you treat me." She hesitated, as if the next words carried weight she was unsure she should place down. "You treat me as though my existence needs no justification." Alex leaned his head back against the stone, letting the cool surface ground him. "I do not think anyone's existence should need justification." Leary tilted her head, studying him now with full attention. "Among my people, worth is measured, defined, evaluated. Some lives are considered essential. Others are considered replaceable." The way she said the last word held a quiet ache, not dramatic, not desperate, just the calm confession of someone who had carried that truth for far too long. Alex's voice softened. "And which of those did they say you were?" Her answer came without bitterness. "Essential, but not for reasons that feel personal." The wind shifted, carrying a low hum across the valley. Leary traced that sound with her eyes, though her thoughts remained somewhere deeper. "When you carried me through the glow field," she continued, "I kept waiting for the question. What question? Why I was there? Who I was? What value I held?" She looked away briefly, her fingers brushing a small pebble near her knee. "But you did not ask. You just acted. Did I need a reason?" Alex asked. "Yes," she said softly. "In my world, you would." He let that sit for a moment. Then he spoke quietly. "I did not help you because of who you are. I helped you because you needed help." Leary seemed to absorb those words slowly, as if letting them settle into places inside her that had never been touched by such simplicity. "Humans," she whispered, almost to herself. "You carry such softness in a universe that often rewards only strength." Alex shrugged lightly. "Softness is a kind of strength." She turned toward him fully now, and the glow in her eyes deepened, not bright, but warm, like light filtered through clear water. "Among my people, that would be considered an illogical sentiment." "Is it illogical to care?" he asked. Her expression shifted again, something gentle unfolding behind her calm exterior. "No," she whispered. "Not here." Outside their shelter, the wind quieted to a low sigh. The beacon on the ridge flickered through the thinning clouds. And in that faint, shared glow, Leary looked at Alex with an understanding that had not existed between them even an hour before, as if something unspoken had finally learned to breathe. The storm clouds finally thinned, revealing a stretch of night sky washed in pale silver, but the last of the wind still moved through the rocks with a lingering sigh. Alex stepped out from the narrow shelter first, testing the ground, checking the air, feeling the shift the same way someone feels the pulse of an old, familiar machine. Leary followed slowly, her steps careful but steady now, as if the storm had taken the last of the numbness with it. The glow beneath her skin softened to a muted shimmer, reflecting faintly off the damp stones. For a moment, she simply breathed in the calmer air, her posture easing with the quiet. "It feels different now," she said, as if the world itself exhaled. "That is what it does after storms," Alex said. "It lets go." She looked at him with a thoughtful tilt of her head. "Do you?" He blinked, caught off guard by the question. "Let go of what?" "Whatever weighs on you," she said. "Humans carry many things you never speak of." His gaze drifted toward the ridge. "Sometimes I let go," he answered. "Sometimes I just carry it a little further." Leary absorbed that, her silence thoughtful and soft. They began climbing the slope again, following the faint path marked by scattered stones and the shallow grooves left by old maintenance vehicles. The beacon on the tower flashed behind them, steady and rhythmic, its glow stirring thin streaks of mist rising from the cooling ground. Alex kept a measured pace, glancing back occasionally to make sure she did not strain herself. Each time he did, she held his gaze a second longer than expected, as if the reassurance meant more to her than she knew how to express. When they reached the plateau, the view opened wide across the valley. The glow field shimmered in slow, pulsing waves, its colors shifting between soft lavender and deep blue, each ripple moving like a heartbeat across the land. Leary stopped, mesmerized. "It is beautiful," she whispered. "Even from here." Alex watched her more than the field. The way her eyes widened slightly. The way her breath caught. The way the glow from the valley reflected along the edges of her silhouette. She looked different in the quiet. Lighter. Less guarded. "Alex," she said softly, still watching the lights. "There is something I should tell you." He shifted toward her, sensing the weight in her tone. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she lifted her hand slightly, letting the bioluminescent breeze catch against her palm. Tiny sparks of violet light drifted around her fingers. "My people," she began. "Do not walk alone at night. Not like this. Not beside someone who is not of our own." Her voice carried a calm honesty, the kind that breaks through layers of carefully taught restraint. "We are taught that closeness is a weakness, that relying on another is an imbalance of duty." She turned to Alex fully, her eyes reflecting the glow field and something deeper. "And yet tonight, I relied on you." Alex held her gaze, steady and gentle. "There is nothing wrong with relying on someone when you need to." Leary shook her head faintly. "Among my people, it is not about need. It is about permission, about roles assigned at birth, about what connection is allowed." She took a slow breath, the glow in her chest brightening with the movement. "For me to walk beside you like this, it breaks rules I have followed my entire life." Alex stepped closer, not touching her, just close enough that she could feel he was not pulling away. "Do you regret it?" he asked quietly. Leary held his gaze for a long, fragile moment. Then she shook her head once, a small, deliberate motion. "No," she whispered. "I do not." The lights of the glow field rippled across the valley, casting soft waves of color over both of them, and in that stillness, the distance between their worlds felt smaller than it ever had. The wind softened to a gentle drift as Alex and Leary stood on the plateau, the glow field casting long ribbons of light that curled across the valley in slow, breathing waves. The storm clouds had broken apart, revealing a thin stretch of stars above them, each point of light reflected in Leary's eyes with a clarity that felt almost too honest. She did not speak immediately, but Alex sensed something building in the quiet, something she had carried far longer than the climb up the ridge. When she finally drew a breath, it was steady and deliberate. "There is more you should know," she said, "about why I was near the glow field and why I should not have been." Alex turned slightly toward her, giving her the space to speak without pressure, yet making it clear he was listening closely. She folded her hands together, the faint light beneath her skin gathering at her fingertips like quiet embers. "Where I come from, the glow fields are forbidden," she continued. "They are considered sacred territory, reserved for those of the luminous line." He felt a small shift inside him, not a shock, but a deeper understanding. "Is that what you meant earlier?" he asked, "when you said your existence was considered essential?" Leary nodded slowly. "Yes, the luminous line is rare. Those born with this glow are meant to serve as guides, recorders of memory, keepers of tradition. We are not permitted to walk unaccompanied. We are not permitted to wander. Every step is meant to be watched." She lifted her gaze to the horizon, where the glow field rippled in gentle pulses. "Tonight, I walked alone." The admission held no rebellion, only the soft weight of someone who had stepped out of a role she never chose, but had lived her entire life. Alex studied her profile in the shifting light. "Why?" he asked quietly. She exhaled slowly, the glow in her chest dimming before returning in a gentle swell. "Because I wanted to see the world without someone telling me where to stand. I wanted to feel what my people call forbidden. I wanted space to breathe that belonged only to me." She paused, her voice softening. "And I wanted to know if the glow meant I was alive for myself, or only alive for others." Alex felt the meaning settle between them, delicate yet powerful. He stepped closer, not closing the distance fully, but enough that the glow of her skin painted faint warmth across his arm. "You came out here searching for freedom," he said, "and instead you found trouble." She gave the smallest smile, one that flickered like a quiet spark. "Trouble," she repeated, "and someone who carried me without asking why." Her gaze lifted to meet his, and the light in her eyes brightened in a way he had not seen before, not even in the glow field itself. "Among my people," she said, "the glow is a symbol. But it is also a burden. Others see it before they see the person beneath it." She reached up slightly, touching her chest where the soft light pulsed. "You are the first person who saw me before you saw this." Alex felt the weight of that, sincere and unguarded. "I saw someone who needed help," he said, "and someone who deserved it." Leary held his gaze, the valley's shifting colors washing over her in gentle waves. For a long, quiet moment, the two of them stood in the open night, the wind cool against their faces, the storm past, the world still. And in that stillness, something unspoken connected them, fragile yet certain, like the first glimmer of dawn on a world learning how to breathe again. The night settled into a quiet stillness, the kind that made every sound feel gentler, every breath feel clearer. The glow field continued its slow ripples across the valley, each wave of light rising and falling like the pulse of a sleeping world. Alex and Leary stood together on the ridge, the soft glow brushing their faces with shifting hues of violet and blue. Leary's gaze lingered on the sweeping lights below, her expression calm, but touched with something deeper, something she had not dared to carry openly before. "My people will search for me," she said quietly. "Not with anger, but with expectation. They will wish to know where I went, why I left the designated paths." Alex nodded, understanding more than she realized. "And what will you tell them?" She breathed slowly, her glow dimming and brightening with the rhythm. "The truth," she said, "that I walked into a place I was forbidden to enter, that I wanted to see the glow field not as a symbol, but as a place that belongs to the world, not to tradition." She paused. "And that a human carried me out when I could not walk." Alex tried to smile lightly. "A human who just happened to be passing by." She shook her head very gently. "No, a human who chose kindness when he had no reason to." The wind touched her hair, and she let the breeze lift it slightly, her face turned toward the glowing horizon. "When they find me," she continued, "there will be questions. Some will not approve of what I have done." Alex lowered his voice. "Will it cause trouble for you?" "Perhaps," she answered. "Perhaps not. But it will change how they look at me." She turned her eyes toward him, soft and steady. "And I am no longer afraid of that." They stood together, quiet, letting the stillness wrap around them. The beacon on the tower pulsed behind them, marking time with gentle flashes. It was Leary who finally stepped closer, not abruptly, but with the careful certainty of someone choosing a direction for the first time in her life. "Alex," she said softly, "there is one more truth I must tell you." His heartbeat slowed, as if preparing itself for whatever came next. She raised her hand, letting the glow gather softly at her palm. "This light," she said, "is not a mark of status. It is a part of who I am. Our elders say it reveals the emotions we cannot hide." She extended her hand toward him, not touching, but close enough that he could feel the faint warmth radiating from her skin. "When you carried me," she continued, "the glow changed. It brightened in a way I could not control." Alex swallowed once, the air cool in his lungs. "What does that mean?" Leary held his gaze, and the glow in her eyes deepened. "It means I felt seen," she whispered. "Not as a symbol, not as a keeper of memory, but as myself." A quiet hum rose from the valley, the glow field shifting to a gentle, rhythmic pulse, as if echoing her words. Leary took one final step closer, the space between them now no wider than a breath. She did not need to touch him for the moment to feel complete. The glow beneath her skin warmed, bright and soft, not in ceremony, not in duty, but in quiet recognition. "Whatever happens when my people arrive," she said, "I will remember tonight. And I will remember the human who showed me what freedom feels like." Alex felt something settle inside him, deep and steady, as the valley lit them in its quiet tide of color. He did not reply with anything grand. He simply met her gaze, steady and warm, letting the silence carry the weight of everything he understood. And in that silence, with the glow field shimmering like a gentle tide beneath them, Leary's quiet smile returned, soft, small, and unforgettable, the kind of smile that stayed long after the night had passed.